Okay. Hello, everyone. We are AF8, and to start our pitch, we would like to present you with some of the figures we came across in the beginning of our project. 1/7 of the world population depends on fish as their primary source of protein, and at the moment, 80% of fish stocks are overexploited, fully exploited, or depleted, leading to a total of up to 2.7 trillion fish overfished every year. At this pace, it won't exist fish by 2048, according to scientists. This shows a clear pattern of overfishing, and our group saw this not only as a market opportunity, but also as a market and world need to prevent these forecasts from happening. With this in mind, we created AF8, a downstream company providing a consulting service through the characterization and provision of surveillance of fishing areas using Earth observation and other complements such as drones. And right now we are looking to raise a total of $370,000 to cover our initial investment that range from tech equipment and marketing campaigns to personnel, mainly the external manpower that includes a corporate lawyer, a data scientist, and a translator.
So we'll go on now with all the innovation and value creation wheel framework. Our team is made of Joanna, Joao, Maria Luisa, Mathilde, which is me, and Romil. And we'll go through all the phases of the innovation and value creation wheel. So we're going to start with the first phase, which is about discover value. Our main challenge is to identify the most important geographic market for the monitoring of fishing activities, and also to support it with the characterization of fishing areas through the surveillance of fishing activities. We aim to do this through our Earth observation, and so the satellites with the orbit cycle of around 27 days and geographic areas of 1400 across within an image. This data we're going to gather, it's about ocean temperatures and currents and sediment concentration, but also about plankton and other underwater information. We aim to do this because of 5 main reasons, which are because of the need of monitoring of fishing activities, because of the unsustainable fishing, because of the mismanagement of fishing areas, because of the lack of monitoring and surveillance, but also because of the lack of governmental concerns about this topic. So in 2014, 90% of the 57 million workers in developing countries that were related to the primary sector were small-scale fishermen. And this increase in the fishing export from countries such as China, Vietnam, and India, where the illegal fishing rate is actually lower and overfishing is a normal procedure. So this nevertheless, out of the world fisheries, 60% are fully exploited, 33% are overexploited, and 7% are underexploited. Therefore, there is a need for marine monitoring and fishing activity through also the agreements. So our mission is, so we aim to combine the management, analytical and technical capabilities to derive a marine downstream Earth observation service, which is responsible for acquiring, storing, and transforming raw data into value-added services. Our mission is to provide that analytic tools for sustainable fishing activities. Our vision is to sustain and protect ocean life and underwater ecosystems. And among our values, we have corporate social responsibility, sustainability, preservation, and innovation. So we aim, our value proposition is preserving the ocean to preserve yourself, and we aim to provide 2 main services, which is the consulting services through the characterization of fishing areas and the provision of surveillance of fishing activities using EO, and our complementary services, which are a digital platform for the clients and a mobile app for the workers to ease and articulate the monitoring of fishing areas. So our complements EOUS are drones and UAD, which have the potential to combat illegal fishing but are rarely used to do so. The logbooks, which are designed for each fishery and when good cooperation with fisheries can be gained. Navy and Coast Guards, which are valuable assets in the sense of monitoring border violations of islands and vessels and to catch or gear control. And VMS, which are vessel monitoring systems, that provides real data, position, and course and speed data through a communication link direct to a base station. Then we have our potential target market are both medium, small, and bigger and wider firms and institutions. And so we have government agencies, fishing companies, marine agencies, consultant firms in fish monitoring. Going on, we also ensure to the sustainability of the company through different SDGs. On one hand, we have SDG number 13 and 14, which are related to the core business of the company, and are respectively the climate action and the life on the water. On the other hand, we have SDG number 1, 2, 12, and 17, which are related to the other purposes of the startup, and are no poverty, zero hunger, responsible consumption and production, and partnership for the goals. So in 2018, the global fish production reached 179 million tons, but we also must consider that 50% of the global production came from the first 7 producers of the marine capture production, and the major 3 countries are China, Indonesia, and Peru, while the main exporters are China, Norway, Vietnam, and India. But we have to consider the illegal fishing mostly is combated in North America, Australia, New Zealand, and Europe. So we then proceed with the PESTEL analysis. And we analyzed both political, economical, social, technological, environmental, and legal factors. And out of the political ones, we found the tax policy, the labor law, the corruption, and the political stability. Among the economical factors, we found economic growth and disposable income, but mostly factors also related to the COVID-19 pandemic. For the social aspect, we regarded the cultural barriers, the fish consumption per capita, and also the organizational structure of the government. Regarding the technological factors, we focused on technology incentives, the research and development activity, and the artificial intelligence. Regarding the environmental factors, we looked at the weather, the climate, but also at the pressure from NGOs and the other water fauna. And regarding the legal one, we focused on the antitrust laws, employment laws, and health and safety laws. Then we proceed with the SWOT analysis and identify the main strengths, weaknesses, threats, and opportunities of the company. Among the strengths, we have the data collection, information access, and the precision and accuracy of our data, but also the specialization of our company that leads to high revenues, and also the importance of digitalization in this area. Among the weaknesses, we have the relying on external IT services and the poor technology background from our team. While in the threats, we have the competitors with a similar value proposition, cyber attacks, but also the COVID-19 pandemic. And regarding the opportunities, we have the development of new technologies, the increasing sensibilization to sustainability aspects, and also the high attractiveness of the investors. Then after this, we proceed with the TOES analysis, and so we combined the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats of our company into 4 strategies, which are the maxi-maxi, maxi-mini, mini-maxi, and mini-mini strategy. And then we proceed with the analysis of the 5 forces analysis. And so we found we have a low threat of new entrants, a medium power of buyers, a low threat of substitution, a high power of supplier, and this leads to a low competitive rivalry. Regarding competitive analysis, we also analyzed the main competitors in the market, and we found that these are EOMAP, EMT, Fugro, Hexagon, and Time Zero, which are all located in Europe, respectively in Germany, England, Netherlands, France, and Sweden. And then we proceed regarding the KPIs. We use the balanced scoreboard to connect different perspectives, which in this case are the financial, the clients, the internal, and the growth. And we then identified 13 KPIs. So regarding the project management, our startup considered the team performance and the sustainable development as 2 long-term goals. So team performance is about the full commitment of the project, the equally divided workload, and 2 meetings per week, a healthy relationship between each member of the group, and a compliance with the deadlines of the project. Regarding the sustainable development, we have the threat of monitoring of fishing impact, but also to increase the number and proportion of protected areas, to study, quantify, and reduce the proportion of fishing stocks, to get the best out of not fully used resources, and to establish partnership with local communities.
All right, so we'll now move on to phase 2, which is divided into 2 parts. The phase will highlight how the team plans on finding the most appropriate target market. In phase 2A, we'll now start with the initial idea. So, we decided to include all 193 member states of the United Nations, as this aligns with our mission of sustainability and the respective sustainability development goals that are recognized by the countries of the UN. Additionally, through this large sample, we avoid prematurely canceling a country and keep all options open. Yes, nevertheless, as we need to finalize a country for our target market, we need to introduce filters which will help us with the most optimal solution. Yes. In order to gather data and generate filters, a 3-step process was used. At first, the team had to identify the optimal strategy for generating filters that were not only innovative, but also diverse. This was implemented through divergent thinking, creation of multiple options, and the adaptation of the correct brainstorming tool and research method. In the second step, to brainstorm the ideas, the 635 method was used. Due to the current restrictions on group gatherings imposed by national governments, physical meetings were unfortunately not possible. Therefore, the method had to be adjusted to a simpler online format. The main topics were divided into 7 categories, and each team member had the task of filling out each category with various filters that would be relevant for that respective category. These filters would then all merge into a single table, and in the last step, information from secondary research was transformed into secondary data. This was collected using online databases, competitors' websites, online reports, group discussions, and even stakeholder presentations. Some examples of these are the FAO, the World Bank, or Eurostat. A total of 73 filters were collected that have been each divided according to their characteristics. Geographic filters such as existence of EEZs, percentage of protected maritime area, or the list of countries by length of coastline help us narrow down countries based on spatial characteristics related to the size or type of geographic area. Environmental filters such as the number of endangered species, IUU fishing index, or the plankton concentration help us analyze countries by characteristics of their ecosystems and factors impacting the ecosystem. Filters related to competition analyze the business environment of each country and help us understand how easy or difficult it would be to offer our product in each market. Some examples of filters are market saturation or number of conservation agencies. Economical filters, such as the ease of doing business or the percentage of fishery import, help understand the market conditions on a macro perspective, and also specific to maritime and fisheries. As our product is based on Earth observation and digital means, considering technological filters such as the Global Innovation Index or the Network Readiness Index was very important, as these technology filters outline how easy it will be to implement our product and if the local market will be receptive to our product. Social filters include the total population or fish consumption and show information regarding the people living in the country and their interaction with the marine environment and fisheries. Finally, the political filters such as tax regulations or blue ocean protections evaluate how the government interacts with businesses and the marine ecosystem. To acknowledge and assess the impact of stakeholders, it needs to be identified at which phases which stakeholder would be of relevance. Therefore, the stakeholders have been identified into 5 distinct groups: employees, governments, environment, data management, and finally others. Within the employee section, it was identified that the role of employees directly working in fisheries will impact all phases of the VCW, as the fishery business is of important value for the entire value creation process. In contrast, it was decided that the various lobby groups representing different types of employees would only be relevant when the final market is known and the first prototype of the product is being developed. Similarly, governments and their respective organizations would only become relevant as a stakeholder once the final market has been narrowed down from the list of 193 states. Stakeholders allocated to this category all have an impact on the marine ecosystem. Fish consumers and indigenous populations would help us identify the demand for various fish species and their perception towards sustainably managing the ocean. This data can be used to optimize the final product and also communicate their interest to potential customers. In contrast, agencies and NGOs involved in ocean management and marine ecosystems would be relevant for finalizing the optimal market once a narrowed down list has been created, and also help with developing the finalized product to meet the necessary needs for sustainable ocean management. Data analysts are going to be important for the entire process, as a team first needs to understand and familiarize itself with Earth observation and effective data analysis of marine environments. This is important for the first steps of the VCW. In addition, data analysts will also be important stakeholders for the development of the final product and its implementation into the finalized market. Finally, 3 other stakeholders have been identified. Organizations downstream of the value stream will all have to be considered during the market selection process and the product development and implementation process, as these stakeholders are potential customers of AF8. In contrast, competitors of AF8 are considered during all phases. Firstly, to understand the Earth observation market within the marine industry, and furthermore, to estimate potential challenges AF8 may face, but also how the team can differentiate a product to make the firm stand out. Finally, universities are also considered as minor stakeholders, as students can be used to gather data and help out with the starting process of the firm. After looking at phase 2, we'll now continue to phase 3. This phase focuses on validating the initial idea and the brainstorm filters. This starts out with phase 3, where the selected idea is reviewed again. As already mentioned in phase 2, the 193 member states of the United Nations will still be considered as possible solutions. This remains because the SDGs are an important part of the UN countries and its alignment with AF8's mission, vision, and values. We'll now move on to phase 3B. This phase focuses on selecting the final filters from the larger list of brainstorm filters. In order to evaluate each filter and to understand whether the filter is relevant for further analysis, the poker method was used. Through this method, each filter is evaluated based on its capability to add value for the analysis of finding the correct market for implementing AF8 services. This framework has 4 different elements. Filters that are not relevant or cannot meet all the needs are killed, whereas others that show some potential, if changed slightly, are reviewed and given a second chance. If a filter needs to be or can be combined with another filter, it is multiplied or even divided into new parts. Finally, those filters that are already suitable and meet all needs for further analysis are kept. Through this process, 48 filters were killed, 22 filters were reviewed, and 5 were multiplied. And finally, 15 filters were kept. The team decided to keep 3 environmental filters for the final selection. The number of endangered species fit with the company's mission and vision regarding sustainability of the marine ecosystem. Therefore, this filter was selected to be kept, however with a slight change of focusing only on the fish species that are threatened. This can be complemented with the IUU Fishing Index, as this filter provides a score of the level of illegal, unreported, and unregulated fishing, and also has an impact on the threatened fish species. Finally, the SDG index was also decided to be kept. From the technology filters, it was decided to keep the Global Innovation Index and the Network Readiness Index. Through the Global Innovation Index, 80 different innovation metrics are analyzed, which help analyze the willingness and receptiveness of each country. Even though not all of the 193 countries are represented in this index, we still decided to keep it, as by this time we had hoped that the filter would come into effect when the countries that are part of it have already been filtered out. In comparison, the Network Readiness Index indicates how countries are ranked based on digitalization. This is very important for AF8, as digital platforms will be the main channel of delivering the final product. From the economic filters, 2 main filters were decided to be used for the global analysis. As AF8 is a startup, The ease of doing business is a very important indicator on how easy or difficult it will be to start a business. Furthermore, the capture fisheries production is another important measure to analyze the different markets based on their size of fishery catches in metric terms. This way, it can be analyzed in which market AF8 can have a large impact. Finally, the team also decided to keep the GDP per capita, however, only as a nice-to-have filter in case multiple final options remain at the end of the initial analysis. Tax regulations and the Corruption Perception Index show the political environment of the country. By analyzing the corporate tax level and considering this in our final option, AF8 has the opportunity to save costs based on tax regulations. Furthermore, as AF8 would consider collaborating with governments and other public entities, it is important that we conduct business in a country whose public perceived corruption level of the public sector is low. Finally, AF8 is considering to complement its product with the use of drones in order to have a unique value proposition to its competitors. Therefore, it would be ideal to find a market that allows the use of drones for commercial purposes. The team also decided to keep the filter considering the population with an occupation in the fishing industry, as this filter also shows the potential impact AF8 can have regarding sustainability within the fishery industry, as well as the potential market size of each country. Finally, 3 geographical filters are chosen for the analysis. With the list of countries by length of coastline, countries that do not have direct access to the ocean can immediately be filtered out. And with the filter regarding the existing of marine exclusive economic zones, countries can be targeted with a large EEZ area to have the largest impact on the sustainability of the marine environment. Finally, the percentage of protected maritime area was also chosen to be kept, as these areas are especially there for biodiversity conservation and species protection, which is one of the most important goals of our team. Altogether, 10 final filters remain to be used for the final analysis.
Moving on to phase 3C, which will represent the final filters. So basically, we divided the analysis into 3 main categories, 10 main filters, 3 nice to have for a backup plan and additional analysis, and 3 local filters for the regional analysis. On the first one, we try to aggregate as many areas as possible to have an overview of the possible opportunities within each country. As an example, was used the length of coastline to check the potential extend our product and the EU Fishing Index to validate the real context of the industry in each country. In the other hand, in the nice to have, we have, for example, GDP and legality of drone use to measure if it is possible to use our complement service in each country or not. As for the local, the analysis was in a different perspective to try to understand the real impact of the industry in each one of the regions, where the company can bring more added value. Here, for example, was included the total production to acknowledge the potential and importance of the industry in each region. A summary and detailed analysis of each filter is presented in the next slides. Additionally, the ranking criteria is also presented, where it is possible to see that the overall analysis started from an ocean marine macro perspective to a legal and economic approach. The goal was basically start from the countries with coastline to make the filters to the ones with highest extension and consequently highest interest in our service, passing to the impact of the fishing industry and corrective feasibility to enter in the market, as well as the internal alignment with the SDG goals and ocean marine protected areas. In the end, it was evaluated the Network Readiness Index to understand the willingness to technological adoption in each country, as well as the tax regulation and corruption, to have an overview of the political stability on each country and the potential amount of tax that will need to be covered by the company. A similar analysis was conducted for the local filters, where the first filter was used to acknowledge the contact that each region within the selected country has with marine areas, and therefore the higher the value of the filter, the higher the coastline length and consequent probability of having fishing activities associated. After that, the population involved in the fishing sector was also analyzed to help to understand the spread and the diffusion of the sector in the country and associated regions. And in the end, the total production of each region was analyzed to understand the attractiveness of our service in the potential target markets. Now moving on to phase 4. We will try to understand the value stage creation. The creation of value stage, yeah. And we will start with the value creation funnel. Exactly. So here we can check all the global filters applied in a macro perspective to the 193 initial countries. And in the end, with the tax regulation analysis, we ended up with 3 main countries. And because of that, a nice-to-have analysis was applied to Italy, Japan, and Spain, from where the final solution reached was Japan, a country with more than 29,000 kilometers of coastal line, an exclusive marine economic zone, and one of the biggest fisheries productions worldwide. After having the final country selected, the analysis moved to the 8 Japanese regions with the application of the regional filters, starting by the length of coastline, moving on to the population working on the industry, and ending with the total production per location. Starting with a more detailed analysis over the length of coastal line, it is possible to highlight that the top 2 regions are Kyushu and Hokkaido, a factor that can reflect the higher likelihood of being 2 regions associated with fishery activities and consequently with a higher interest on the company services. As for the population with an occupation in fishing industry, the previous trend follows the same path, and once again Kyushu and Hokkaido are the 2 top regions, counting with more than 20,000 persons in the industry per region. This filter can highlight the social component of the fishing sector in each region and consequently importance for the local employment. At last but not least, it is the total fishery production filter. Here the ranking of favorite regions is switched and Hokkaido is the top one, followed by Kyushu. However, in both options, the probability of existing overfishing or marine maltreatment is consequently higher, which can reflect the importance and urgency of our company services. So at the end of the analysis from the 8 initial Japanese regions, it is possible to extract 2 main regions as preferable ones, Hokkaido and Kyushu. Therefore, a nice-to-have filter approach was conducted with total number of fishery management entities, from where Kyushu was the final and main solution for the company start. Yeah, we can move to the next one. Yeah. Similarly to the previous analysis, the comparison between regions was also performed. Here, the main goal was to understand the predominance of the number of management entities per region, and at the same time, the number of potential partners or clients that are directly linked to the fishing sector. Kyushu, with more than 20,000 entities, was the final solution. Following now with the conceptualization and project prototype. Exactly, we'll start with phase 4. And first was analyze the potential value creation that the company could bring to the Japanese region, being highlighted 4 main pillars where AF8 can act. First, the overfishing problem that have been followed by the government with the goal to decrease it by 0 until 2050. Secondly, the natural disasters and nuclear wastewater, from where the fishing industry in Japan suffered several blows, like the earthquake and tsunami in 2011 that still have impact on the fish quality. As a complement to the previous 2, AF8 can be safeguarded by 2 key points: the favorable legal conditions that have been increasing its potential for the industry since 2005, with the official fishery policy that provide measures for ensuring sustainable exploitation of fishery resource, a stable supply of fishery products for the country, the development of fishery communities, as well as the protection of the marine environment. And the investments on the end user scenario that Japan have been implementing since 2012, with the increase of vessels in offshore regions to ensure the monetization and management measures on the long term. Additionally, also a competitors analysis over Japan was conducted, from where 4 main companies are highlighted, starting with Spacefish, that provide daily fishing ground prediction service through a decision support tool for fishing expeditions, the Torredos, where here the users pay a 6-month subscription, and the price it is divided per type of service, being the 2 main categories, the regular pack and premium one. In both, the application can be only accessed via PC. Next, it is Fishery Engineering, a consultant service that employs high-level employees with knowledge in the field of marine and fishery ecosystems. And contrary to the first one, the company, it is focused on Tokyo and already have a market positioning since 1997. Moving on to the Environment Simulation Laboratory. This is a small company located near Tokyo, which provides various software solutions and consultant services related to fishing grounds prediction and data management for fishing expeditions. Additionally, the government stands out as their main client. In the right corner, it is Jafik, which is the founder of one of the most used tools for fishing support system, used by more than 500 clients through a monthly subscription with full access to PC, smartphone, and tablet view. All of them with online and offline capabilities, highly responsive to any type of device. For our team, currently, this is considered as being the key player on the Japanese market.
So first we created a customer profile. Pinpointing their main demands and needs. And from here, we were able to identify 5 potential customers. From those potential customers, we identified the Ministry of Agriculture, Forestry, and Fisheries of Japan, Japan Fisheries Research and Education Agency, Maru Nushuru, which is the biggest fishing company in the world, Nisyu, which is the 2nd biggest fishing company in the world, and finally the regional government of Kyushu. So based on behavioral and demographic segmentation criteria, AF8 will focus on 3 of the previously identified potential target markets, them being government and conservation agencies and large fishing corporations, since they enable a higher impact and guarantee prolonged cooperation and also entail a lower business risk. The firm will offer real-time data supported by a user-friendly platform and also training sessions for each customer. Regarding the value chain, AF8 positions itself in the downstream industry, offering services that add and create value from analyzed data, having a closer engagement with end users, and combining technical and managerial expertise while promising exclusive partnerships with local stakeholders. Moving on to the Blue Ocean strategy. Based on a strategy Canva, it's clear that AF8 will have a full integration with the end user, offering exclusive partnerships agreement, like I mentioned before, and real-time consulting applications, which is possible through the drone fleet. Regarding the entry mode, AF8 will have its headquarters in Fukuoka, which ensures its proximity to key stakeholders, such as the regional government of Kyushu, and they would also hire local experts doing this setup. Comparing to its competitors, AF8 will only focus in one area of expertise, fisheries. Moving on to the prototype, we use the SCAMPER method to achieve the final prototype. So first we use Jafik as the initial prototype, and AF8 will combine remote sensory imageries and in situ techniques. Additionally, the service will be also available on a website and an app where clients can access the data. AF8 targets governments and conservation agencies and also large fishing corporations to achieve a bigger impact, like I mentioned before. And its organizational goal is to achieve sustainable fishing capacity and ocean health. AF8 will also provide its services on all platforms. Regarding the prototype, its core value will be through satellite imagery, and also will have complement services through fixed cameras and drones. This will lead to satellite imageries and in situ images, which will be then stored in a cloud and using Copernico and internal central database. It will be available on a website and an app, like I mentioned before, and hence the firm will offer consultant services and training sessions. Regarding the website, it will have all its products and services, and clients can have access to all of the main touch points, and as well as a direct access to a login where clients can have their accounts. Additionally, the firm will have an application where clients can also have access to these services. Moving on to the marketing mix. So first, the product will be consultant services supported by the app and website, and this service will have an online and offline access to marine monitorization, imagery-based maps and data visualization, as well as real-time analytical reports on the cloud processing and drone and global Copernic database connection. Regarding promotion, it will be online via the website, social media, and email marketing, for example, and offline made through local events regarding the fishing industry and international conferences. Regarding price, it will depend on the type of customer, so the price will be either charged annually or monthly through a subscription fee, and any additional services will be charged over. Moving on to the next slide, please. Regarding place, it will be on online channels, as I mentioned before, and through a direct contact through the headquarters, and we'll have also reports, analytical and data visualization based maps, which will be available on ArcGIS Pro and Power BI interface, and all of the data will be kept in a centralized cloud. Regarding the people, the team will include analytical expert and 4 managers with financial and strategic backgrounds. However, the firm will have to do new acquisitions in terms of people. Regarding the physical evidence, as I mentioned before, it will be available on an app and a website, which will also have multiple languages, so the clients can choose either in Japanese or English, among other languages. Regarding processes, the inputs will be online and offline customer acquisitions, throughputs will be service performance, and finally outputs will be long-term relationships with the client and feedback.
Okay, so now moving on to phase 5 and the last phase of the project, the phase of value. And start off with the value of proposition. Just a second. Starting with our business model canvas and starting with our value proposition. Our value proposition is to provide a consulting service that can improve sustainability of fisheries using real-time data from our key resources, like the experts and IT infrastructures, and also from our key activities and key partners. And with this, we aim at having a closely integrated two-way communication with our different key partners and customer segments, with special attention to the ones already identified as potential customers. We will reach these customers through online channels, conference and trade fairs, and direct approach. Our cost structure is divided into fixed, from software development, IT infrastructure, salaries of consultant experts, and variable costs like marketing expenses and R&D expenses. And finally, our revenue streams will come from both consulting fees, ancillary services, and also subscription packages. Next, Moving on to manpower. We will need to hire some external manpower, as I already said before, and this will be a user interface and mobile developer, a data scientist with Earth observation knowledge, a corporate lawyer, and a translator or an interpreter acquainted with the Japanese culture. Then we already have the established team of the 5 of us. We are composed by Joanna, the Chief Technology Officer, that is responsible for the technological and digital vision of the company accordingly with the strategic needs. Then myself, João Rodrigues, the Chief Executive Officer, that will lead and implement the overall strategy of the company as well as the goals to reach and overall performance and evaluation. Then Luis Rebelo, the Chief Marketing Officer, managing the high-level marketing operations in AF8, including promotions, advertisements, social media campaigns, and CRM strategy. Next, Matilde Gaziniga, the Chief Financial Officer, that will draw the financial strategic plans for AF8 through a transparent system. And lastly, Romil Rani, the Chief Operating Officer, that will be defining the business strategy and performance and growth goals for AF8. Next, for the minute, besides the 2021 ongoing work of the recruiting of personnel, benchmarking, UX tests, and other things that still need to be done right now in this year, we have already defined a strategy for the rest of the next year, 2022 year, dividing each quarter. And for the first quarter, we will need to approach to local and global partners, launch the website, mobile app, and the social media platforms, and the promotion of the company services by the marketing channels. In the next quarter, we will further develop our on keeping and retaining our customers. Then we will need to analyze the KPIs and their outcomes and the possible social media strategy adaptation. For quarter 3, the collection of customers' feedback to improve the online platforms and the app, and the finance and funding through new partners, like the Ministry of Agriculture, Forestry, and Fisheries of Japan. For the last quarter, we will use the VCW to try to find new markets and start looking for potential events or international conference like the UN Ocean Conference. And this always to grow in the direction of increasing the sustainable fishing capability, ocean health, and respect for marine biodiversity. Next, for money, the annual budget of the company will be of around $370,000, and this amount includes the initial cost of funding of the company, the expenses for the space of work and the personnel, as well as those for the technological equipment needed and the marketing campaigns for the first 12 months. And here we have the table to look at some of the values, and it's also important to say that personnel and technical equipment will represent more than 80% of the initial AF8 investments. Moving on to the KPIs. In the beginning of the project, we defined different KPIs through a balanced scoreboard, and now we were able to reevaluate, redefine, improve, or adapt the current strategy. And so we divided our initial KPIs to ones that are done, like finding clients and definition of the segments, the team satisfaction, or even to find the market that we were able to get it using the defined KPIs and reaching the desired targets. And then we also have the ones to be reevaluated after the project, the ones in 6 months to 2 years, and the ones in 2 to 5 years. And next, we also developed, you can go to the next slide, please. We also defined, team performance and sustainable development goals. And for the team performance goals, we were able to actually perfectly achieve all of them. And as for sustainable development goals, we were not able to actually measure them because it is only when the project is already on the run. And although it's not possible to measure all the goals without the launching of the final project, it is expected to achieve them in the medium to the long term because of the Japanese market's potential, high demand, and space to grow within the blue ocean markets. Okay, and now moving on to the last part, which is the upcoming goals and key findings. And first, to start off with the next challenge for the first steps, firstly, we'll need to finish the setup and establish partnerships. And for this, we'll recruit local employees, sign lease agreement for local office, and establish partnerships with some of the companies that we have here. And then we need to contact and acquire our first customers. That will be the one that we already defined our key possible customers. Next, we need to test AF8 ecosystem and relationship to acquire customer feedback, optimize consultant IT drone customer ecosystem, and collect KPIs for performance monitoring. And then we would like to expand to further regions like Hokkaido, which was our second option in the value creation funnel, because it's the second region with the most people on the industry, the top producer between all the Japanese regions. It has a coastal line length of more than 4 million meters. Finally, for the key findings and implications, the main project outputs are for the understanding of key environmental issues related to marine ecosystems and fishing, the identification of Kyushu as optimal starting market, the establishment of a business model suited for target market and customers, and lastly, the definition of future steps complemented by the 3 M's. And regarding the managerial implications, the teams of AF8 still need to familiarize with the Japanese environment and culture, which may also be harder in this period due to the travel and local restrictions that slow down the business opening. This mainly affects all the tasks that require physical presence in the country and a direct contact with stakeholders, partners, and local clients. And that was our presentation. Thank you for your attention, and remember that we are preserving the ocean to preserve yourself. Thank you.